And we're alive. It's another episode of Eat, Sleep, Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host, Ed Charbeneau. With me is my co-host, John Bristowe. Welcome, John.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Hope you're all safe and sound wherever you are. How are you doing, Ed?
It is a holiday week here in the U.S., so 4th of July was over the weekend, and some of us are still on vacation. We're officially closed for business Monday, but I figured why not do a podcast? Sounds like fun.
That's right.
I get to talk to you, John.
So, get to talk to you too. How you been?
I've been good. Just kind of relaxing today. Got some construction going on here. I think they might be wrapping up. Hopefully we don't hear any interruptions while we're doing this, but it's been kind of a busy afternoon here. Okay. How about you, John? How are you doing?
Things are good. It's winter here, so things do get cold down in Australia, despite the stereotype of it being a scorched earth sort of place. So we're just in the midst of winter. We've got sport leagues firing up now, so my son's soccer teams are starting to get back into it, which is great. We've got school's on break right now, so we've been back to school for a couple weeks at least. Things are kind of rambling along.
Sounds like things are getting back to normal for you. Not so much here, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is, quote, the new normal. But anyhow, we have some articles from around the internets to share this week. And let's see, I'll kick this off with a tweet that I saw this morning. I thought I'd share this. I love infographic things like this with code. I think it helps convey the message of like what exactly that code is doing. And for those listening and not watching, the idea here is there's a set of JavaScript array operators, and they're using what is that called? Like a Venn diagram to kind of show like which parts of the arrays are included or excluded by running these commands. I thought that was a pretty slick way to approach it.
Sure, you could do this with all kinds of ways of sets with languages. You could do this with T-SQL, with joins if you wanted. You could do this with, I believe there's a number of functional languages that provide similar sort of set notations. C# obviously has this capability as well. So this is providing, I would like to see it with live data. That'd be cool. If you could like take, it could read in your array, in-memory array, and show you. Of course, with large collections, that might be a bit problematic, but it'd be cool to show you the sets live as you kind of fiddle around with them.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I'm sure you could probably figure that out with some fancy CSS.
Sure.
You know, the web is pretty capable. It'd be pretty cool. I'd also like to see like a cheat sheet that has the same 4 operators with like many different languages. Because then you could just look at the diagram as a key and go, oh, that's how you do the same exact thing in C# and SQL. I think that'd be pretty helpful.
Everyone pretty much has arrow notation, don't they? I mean, I can't think of a language that doesn't have some notion of it now. Back in the day, obviously, that wasn't the case. Back in the day being a couple of years ago. But it seems like everyone's kind of gravitated towards this now.
I think everybody does map filter reduce these days too. They just call it something different in each language. That's where the little infographic part of it comes in super handy, because you can just look at it at a glance and you're like, oh, now I know how to do that in 5 languages.
Yeah, we all borrow from each other. We've all got REPLs now. We've all got sort of map reduce operations. I guess we'll kind of gravitate to something else at some point. You know, what's the new hotness?
If you ask JavaScript folks, everything is turning into JavaScript. If you ask C# folks, everything's turning into C#. So
yeah, that's right.
It's all a matter of perspective.
It's fine. It's goodness. It's what we need.
And as usual, I like to have an article about hacking your face because I know it's your favorite topic. So I thought I'd share this one because AR is starting to get more and more traction. And this is pretty cool. It's a dinosaur app. So if you have younger kids, they would probably appreciate this. And big kids like ourselves too. But it lets you see dinosaurs in what they would look like in in your given space. So you can like render a T-Rex in your backyard and see what it would look like.
Sure.
So I think stuff like this is the future right here.
Really?
This is
You
my
think this
opinion.
is the future?
Yes. So here's the idea here. If you can take and look through your phone or a set of AR glasses and see a dinosaur rendered in its full, like realistic height and stuff in your space you're occupying, like within your backyard or maybe a field or something, that's pretty cool. But can you imagine going and looking back at, say, a historical site and have it reconstructed in your, so you can walk around it as if it was in its heyday? That would be pretty sick.
Sure. Yeah. That would be kind of interesting, I guess. But
like Stonehenge or let's say the Mayan temples or something. You could you could look at it in its somewhat ruined state, or you could see it in its glory. I think that'd be
I'd like
pretty
to see. I'd like to see something where you could sort of envision what a garden might look like if you're in your backyard, or if I put this shed here, how much space will that take? That might be a good application.
When you said render a garden to see what it looked like, I thought you were talking about like dystopian nightmare that we're heading towards, and that's something we need just to see a flower.
That's right. That's right.
Because 2020 has ruined me like that. Like, oh, now we need an AR app just to see what green vegetation used to look like before 2020 and global warming and COVID.
That's right.
All of our nightmares coming true. But no, you meant that like literal, like they do with
IKEA.
Who has that? IKEA.
IKEA does.
IKEA has that. You can place furniture in your house and all that.
Yeah, they've spec'd out. They've done a good job of specking out all their furniture, getting all the dimensions, and then obviously putting those into 3D models that they can then incorporate into AR VR space. We've got to provide a better way of mapping things. And I think LiDAR and cameras like that will help. So maybe at some point we can go to a hardware store, scan something, and then take that model back with us, and then project that onto 3D space we have at home. We kind of need to do that. I don't know if you can do the opposite, where you have a full fidelity image of your backyard and like kind of transpose yourself in that. It's not going to work that way, but interesting stuff.
Yeah, like this last part of the video here, I think puts it, pun intended, in perspective. Where you can take the phone and kind of look up. And I mean, you don't get this type of perspective from a textbook or like a video of of dinosaurs or anything like that, or even a museum. It's hard for them to construct a model that is that massive for you to go inside the museum and look at. The only way you're going to get something like that is maybe where they've reconstructed some of the bones of one of these things. And that you have to then travel to and pay admission for. Or you can download an app for your phone and walk in your backyard and see a 3D rendered version of this animal that hasn't existed for countless years, and look up at it like that. I think that's one of the things, putting it into scale and being able to look at it from that perspective is pretty awesome. So yeah, I think AR is definitely the future of things. Let's see here. I've got to get some of your links up in here as well.
Yeah, I've added a few actually.
Yeah, I like this one. Let's go on to this one next. So this is a Reddit thread. I'll let you take the wheel here for a minute. I kind of get the gist of this, but go ahead with what this is about.
Yeah, so iOS 14 is coming out soon. It's available as a developer preview or beta. So lots of new stuff coming around this. And as far as, Apple's had a pretty good stance on privacy in the last few years. They've taken the stance of letting users know what's happening on their platform a little bit more. You're seeing this with various notifications that pop up from time to time. This site is accessing your location, et cetera, et cetera. Now there's a new notification they've added to iOS 14 that people have downloaded in advance and tested out with various apps, not intentionally, but they've just noticed by just using iOS 14 and these various apps that run on them, that they're getting all these notifications of clipboard snooping. So the idea here is that as you type things into text boxes, for example, like if you're entering your username, they're getting all these notifications from various apps like TikTok or Reddit, or I think LinkedIn was another one. There's a few that, hey, this app just accessed your clipboard. And so the thinking there is that they're actually snooping on apps that are running not front. They're running in the background, and so this is a bit of obviously a security concern. If you're typing in sensitive data, it can have a wide series of implications. But really, the first indication that we got of this was around TikTok. So there was TikTok has been a long time accused of taking data. Just based on what he read, but so all these app companies are now on board with updating their apps to make sure that they're not triggering this snooping event, because it is a little bit suspect when you're seeing an app raising all these events that's saying, hey, they're accessing your keyboard. And it's not only that, they're accessing your keyboard, like not your keyboard, but your clipboard constantly. Like for every key press, they're accessing the clipboard. So they're almost stealing every character.
Well, I mean, think about what you do with your clipboard too. One of the most common activities you're going to see with a clipboard is you need to log into a site, and you go in and you copy your login information, paste it, copy your email, copy your password. Now that's all in clear text being sent to TikTok for them to do what with.
I don't know, create a dance video, who knows? So
yeah, unfortunately, we're in a political climate where TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, and there's a couple other nations that are not very friendly with them at the moment. So
right.
U.S. and India are having some spats with China at the moment. A lot of times their commercial industries bleed into the government sector, and it's kind of a hot topic. They've been banned from, if you're in like the U.S. military, you cannot have TikTok on your device. Like that's just not a thing that's going to happen, because we don't know what it is that the information's being used for. Why are they capturing, like you said, on every keystroke,
right?
All of your clipboard information, location data is being sent, very detailed stuff is being sent through a lot of these apps.
Sure.
So it's very much a gray area. And this clipboard thing that you brought up has brought a lot of it out.
I think this became a bit of a meme, especially for iPhone devices back in the day when Apple had its list of locations that were revealed in an article, and everyone saw it as a huge controversy, like Apple's tracking you, etc. I can understand the motivation on Apple's part of maintaining geo coordinates so that it may be able to trace back, but there wasn't any evidence, I believe, at the time that Apple was sending it back to its headquarters. It was just tracking on the local device of your recent GPS lookups, which is, from a developer's perspective, I could see why. It's like, well, we've got to look this up. What if the phone turns off, and someone needs their previous data? Like maybe they're using a mapping application like Pokemon Go or whatever it's called, where they look up your previous locations. So there is reason for that. But more recently, you've seen more notifications appearing to users. Certainly, they're making this front and center for users of iOS, which is great. I think that's something that needs to happen. And this is just yet another part of that list of notifications that's occurring on the iOS platform. I think that app developers really should be careful about what they're actually trying to do. And it is suspect when with every key press, there's this notification that says that the clipboard's been accessed. So either that's a bug or that's intentional. I'm not a big believer in the fact that I'm a target in this, but I think that it is possibly a vector that people could be compromised. I also think that there are apps that don't do things that people are asserting that they're doing. Like a big claim that I've read online is that Facebook is listening, to your audio feed, and there's not any evidence that I've seen for that. But if you just think through the problem, how much data would be consumed and how much battery life would be eaten up on your phone just by implementing that in an app, that is less likely. This, however, is nothing. This is a trivial API that's being called. So this one is definitely a lot more, it's a lot more sneaky in that way, because without this notification, how would you know, basically?
Yeah. The thing about your phones listening, that one is something that is pretty um it's pretty fair to discuss, I think. I don't know if you can dismiss it by saying it would take too much computing power. I think you could do a lot of it with I mean, your device is already listening all the time. I mean, if I say, okay, Google, my phone will light up and start doing
Oh,
things.
great. You've just done it
So
on
it's
everyone's.
already, yeah, I did that for everyone. It's already listening all the time. Okay.
That is true. That
So
is true.
it's a matter of is it communicating what it's listening to anywhere?
I'd have to believe, though, that the app platform, like whether it's Android or iOS or what have you, even Windows with what's it called again? Whatever.
Cortana?
Yeah, thank you. I have to believe that they have that catchphrase that they're listening for. They have anyone with any sense of security would know that it has to be that catchphrase, and without that, they have an open audio stream, but it's only privileged apps that can access it. I would hope. I mean, that would be my first concern looking at the architecture of this, but whatever.
Yeah, is it being listened to by apps? Is it being listened to at the OS level? I've seen some very coincidental things happen with my own account.
Yeah,
Like there was,
I think that's just based on what
yeah.
people are searching for, and ad networks are just getting the breadcrumb trails of your search criterion. People equate that to listening, but whatever.
There was one day we were talking about pancakes quite frequently. And I do not search, like, I know how to make pancakes. I don't need my device to tell me how to make pancakes. I'm not searching for recipes. And the next day I was spammed with pancake recipe things on my Google feed. And it's
All right.
like, I never searched for anything. I'm not looking for syrup. I'm not buying any pancake ingredients with my phone. Like, why is it doing this? So you kind of get a little skeptical when weird coincidental things like that happen.
All right.
Could it just been, I don't know. Maybe I drove by an IHOP. I have no idea. Like, it was doing it, though. It was very creepy. But if you want to check out that kind of traffic and see what's going across the wire, you could do that with a little amazing app called
Yes.
Fiddler.
Yes. This is a great app, one of my faves. Definitely should be part of your arsenal of applications that you use as a developer. Fiddler is a great tool. It's a trace proxy. What it basically does, it sits in between your app and the network and allows you to view, or apps in this case. It basically allows you to view any network traffic that's occurring over your apps to the network in large, and will allow you to see and view what's occurring there. And so Fiddler Jam, this is a write-up by a friend of ours, Rob Lauer, who's basically talking about an upcoming product. Do you have much to say on this? You guys allowed to talk about this?
I'm not on the Fiddler team, so I don't actually know too much about what's happening here, unfortunately.
Yeah, my take on this is that it's one of those tools to help out in the case where you have support criteria that you're trying to figure out what's actually occurring on someone's machine. So basically, this is a tool that I think has been introduced to help with remote cases. So Fiddler Jam, the idea here is you're jamming because there's, like a band jams. There's a lot of people involved in support orchestration. There's the customers, there's the people taking the support call, there's the people who are writing the application, and they all need to come together to try and figure out what's actually occurring. And so Fiddler Jam is this tool that basically allows you to troubleshoot these issues on the network and then integrate with your support and dev teams in that sense. So basically the way this works is you install a Chrome browser extension, you start recording some traffic, and then you basically send that recording to the support team that can then access it through a site, and then they can view this traffic that's coming up in a secure way, and then your dev team will be able to replay that. All this has been built into Fiddler for a long time. You've been able to do captures since forever, and then send those captures to someone who has Fiddler proper installed and then see the network that has been occurring. The problem has always been getting Fiddler installed, getting customers to record. There was a tool that Eric wrote called Fiddler Cap that did just this. It was a small little utility. You'd press this. It was like 3 or 4 buttons. You'd say, start recording, save the capture, and then send it off via email. What this does is basically gets rid of that sequence altogether. Basically, it just integrates as an extension. If you hit a website that you're having problems with, you hit basically record, stop, start, and then send off. And then it just sends it off to the support team this way. So it's kind of bridging that gap between customers who are experiencing problems with applications or sites, and then links that into your support and developer teams.
Yeah, this is, I see now how handy this could be. We were developing an app that I worked on before my time at Progress, and it was this very highly secured website, and we were having the worst time with users logging in. And we had to build some like extensive logging on our application to try to figure out what it was people were doing that they couldn't log into this application, because support was getting calls all the time like, I need to reset my password and this, I can't log in. And it turns out if you put in a text box called username, you will get pretty much everything but the user's name in there.
That's true.
You will get their email, you will get their best friend's birthday. We logged some really insane things in that box.
Sure.
So what we ended up doing to resolve that was pretty funny. Since we got such random things, we found like the top 4 inputs that people wanted to keep putting in there, even though it said username. Like I said, we got emails and stuff like that. Even though we only needed their username, we put a field for email in there and threw the email away because we didn't even need it. So it was username and password. Anything else you put in the other 2 boxes, I think it was email, and there was some other like 4th box. We just chunked those out. So we actually just put fake forms on the screen and let people have at it. They felt
that's why you should always prefix.
That's
why as a markup tip, you should always prefix or try to make your input IDs unique, because there's always name collision occurring.
Yeah, this was kind of before the days of the like watermark text boxes and like UX hints and stuff like that. But people will enter. They do not read the label, so I don't know how much the watermark's going to help, because it's a user name and it's got like anything but. I mean, we saw all kinds of weird stuff in there.
As much as I'd like to blame users, I have to take some responsibility as a developer for this. I have not always been the best in terms of coding these things up. The consistency has not always been there, and that's just me speaking personally. Now imagine that this is a user hitting multiple sites written by multiple developers who have different ideas about how this all works and hangs together. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I think they had a customer number of some sort. I say customer number. I can't really say what the number related to is, a government thing, but we'll just call it customer number. That was the other one they would enter in. It wasn't something we required or wanted to even know, but they would enter that standard, like say it's your social security number type of thing. And it's like we would get that number, we'd get their email. It's like, so we just put all the form boxes that they could possibly want and just take what we needed. It was funny. This is an article at Paul Thurrott's website. He covers Windows news and stuff like that, very detailed. This is by Brad Sams, and it's actually a video, but there's a little bit of an article here kind of recapping the video. And it's how to customize your Windows 10 desktop with some really cool features. And this stuff's been done like a million times.
Sure.
There's nothing super unique to this article, but I haven't seen one in a while. So I thought I would share, since it's been quite a bit since I've seen this. I used to do this with, what was that called? Window Blinds by Stardock.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember them? I'm sure they're still around in some capacity. But this one is aimed at customizing your Windows 10 desktop to feel more Mac OS like. So if you're a big fan of Mac OS, maybe you're
Just
not
get a
allowed
Mac.
to use
Would you just get a
maybe
Mac?
you're not allowed to have one. Maybe your work doesn't buy
All right,
Macs, and
fine.
you know, maybe you're forced to use PC.
All
Maybe the
right,
thing that you want to
forced.
run on your Mac doesn't work on
You know,
Mac because
compared to when you and
know,
I were learning how to use computers today are so simple. You know, I don't think
yeah,
computers are hard anymore, but there you go. So actually, that's
you're
not true. That's
also
not true. I have to again check myself, because I do think of the times where I'm helping people and I'm like telling them, yeah, just go into System 32. And then you kind of think about, like, imagine what that sounds like to someone who's never seen a computer before. Like, what? System
like,
what?
like blah blah blah. Just
Yeah.
go into Vim and type regedit.
Yeah.
Whatever. No.
Yeah. All right.
So maybe
Forget
you
what I
can't.
just said.
Maybe you can't have a Mac. Maybe you're not allowed. Maybe they're not part of your IT's buyout. You know what you're allowed to have.
Maybe. So
Maybe
this will give you that capability?
Maybe you're doing gaming, and you know gaming sucks on Mac, or VR sucks on Mac.
That is true.
Streaming
Okay,
sucks on
that
Mac.
is one
Sorry,
edge
I'll
case.
stop.
Yes,
I'll
for
stop.
sure.
I'll stop.
No,
I'll
that's
stop.
fine. That's fine.
So no, maybe there's a legit reason though, but
Yep.
you wanted to make your PC look like a Mac. There's several utilities that you can download. So there's a thing to like customize your start bar to make it smaller and more sleek. You can put your icons down in the middle of the taskbar, kind of center those, kind of like Mac does. There's like a search module that you can add to the center of the screen, and like an enhanced
Why do people care
file
about this so
explorer.
much?
I don't know.
What?
I used to do this back in the day. You know, I was in an office and I was
Yeah.
bored. Okay,
Okay.
that's why. I had to drive physically to an office and sit in a cubicle for 8 hours a day, and there's nothing else to do because you're supposed to be working, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, I think what we need are better tools for people to clean up their machines. Like there's always that guy in the office who saves every file to the desktop.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, that's what we could use. But you know, centering logos or icons rather on the bottom taskbar, it's like, okay, I guess.
So this is one of the utilities. Like they're all kind of named out here in nice
Yep.
bullet points. You can
Oh yeah,
check
I've used a
that,
few of these. Yep.
that out there. Oh shoot! And I'm sorry. I think I'm ignoring chat room today. I forgot.
Oh, it's just
to
a
check
PC
here.
versus Mac sort of debate
Yes.
going on right now.
Mac for the win, says Chris DeMars. Of course. Forced to use a Mac. I'm so sorry that happened to you, angry little hamster. Awesome name, by the way. I love that. That's a great handle for Twitch. I love that. So one of them is this PowerToys thing, which I thought was pretty cool, because this is actually, if you look, it's on GitHub, so the code is
Yep.
there. So that's
Yep.
coolness number one. It's by Microsoft, so that's even cooler, because it's actually, you know, it's not some third-party thing that people are drumming up to add these utilities. It's actually something that Microsoft's experimenting with. So they put this out there. You can build it yourself. You can commit code to it. But it has these features. Fancy Zones is a really good one, because there's these new ultra-wide monitors. And there is snap mode in Windows. Here, I'll try to see if this will come through the
No,
screen.
we all know
That's
snap
perfect.
mode.
So you can snap left and right and all that good stuff. Well, what if you have an ultra-wide monitor?
Right.
And you want to set up an area of that ultra-wide monitor to be a zone to snap to? That's what Fancy Zones does. You can divide out, you know, you've got this, what is it, 4,000 pixel wide, you know, ultra-wide monitor. So you can just snap like certain sections, and that, you know, pretends to be multiple monitors, if you want to think of it that way.
Sure.
So that is super cool. The file explorer thing, I'm on the same page as you. That's overkill for me. I don't need any more file explorer goodness. Batch image resizing is always good to have. And there's lots of goodies in here. So
yeah, there's a lot of really good utilities. I've used these for many years. Robocopy comes to mind as one of the ultimate utilities that you should always have, because the problem with copy was that if the network went down, and kids, you won't understand this, but Robocopy was a tool that was used for flaky network connections. So nothing was more frustrating than trying to download something that was multiple gigs, like an ISO. Like say you're downloading SQL Server ISO or something like that, and then your network craps out at 75%. You have to restart the whole copy all over again. So RoboCopy gives you a better, more robust capability. And utilities like these are a godsend. They just really, really help with the developer/IT pro experience much more.
You know how many enterprises run on RoboCopy?
Yeah, I know.
Like getting reports from system A
Yeah.
to B and running batch jobs and all that good stuff. It's really scary.
It is scary. I mean, the amount of IT infrastructures that's held together with virtual duct tape is scary. Yes, I would agree.
If there was a time bomb that just made RoboCopy stop working one day, like the whole economy would come to a screeching halt. Planes would fall from the skies.
Come on.
I hope you've seen IT Crowd.
Sure.
Okay, you're pretending now. You're patronizing me, John.
I know.
It's a line from IT Crowd. IT Crowd fans will get that. Planes will fall from the skies. It'll be like a child tearing up a paper napkin. It's if the internet were to crash. Speaking of internet's crashing, what is this?
Oh, geez, yeah. So this I found on Hacker News. I thought this was hilarious. So I've been a longtime fan of these web developers who use their spare time to recreate these environments on the web. And so what this is basically a collection of those efforts or those experiments that people have done. Basically, this is just a link page where people have there's a collection of simulated desktop environments. So Jurassic Systems is a classic. That one is one of the first, I think, that came out. It's right in the center there. Basically, it recreates environments either seen on movies or tries to implement Windows 95 in the browser. So there's all kinds of classic ones like that. And Jurassic Systems is an example of one that kind of shows you how to, I know. It is what it is. If you go on Jurassic Systems, that one, I think people who have seen Jurassic Park might recognize it. It's the one where I think his name is Nedry, the character's name. This is basically the Jurassic Park system that is running everything, and then he goes through he does the system test in the movie so he can steal all the vials of embryos. So basically someone's taken screenshots of what was presented in the movie and then recreated it for the web, and it's called JurassicSystems.com. So this Simone's Computer site is just a collection of all of those of desktops that people have created. There's a Windows 98 one. There's all kinds of ones in there. So I thought this was kind of fun. Windows 1.0,
the things people had time to do before Corona.
I know. So this one I thought was kind of fun. I think this has been a while. This has been around for a while. So Windows 93, FrankenSim, these are, I don't know what these are. This is apparently a Brittany desktop. So go figure. So I don't know what these things are, but
where I click.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know where these links are going.
People can go check this out for themselves. I thought this was fun because you can type certain commands in here. So if you go back to the Jurassic desktop just for a second, you can type certain commands in there that don't work. So you can just type like dir or ls or whatever. And if you type in enough commands, like in the movie, if you type in 3 wrong commands, you see Thomas Nedry's character pop up on screen. So just do a dir or something like that. Yeah. And then just do it 3 times, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just type anything. I think it's 4 or 5 times or something like that. Just keep going. Oh, okay. Apparently it did at one point. It would pop up this screen that said, the guy going, that's not the magic word. So there are some characters, there are some things you can type in there. So just interesting stuff. So yeah.
Interesting.
Just thought it was fun. Yeah.
The wonders of the internet.
I know. This is a
Unix
this
is
system.
I know pretty crazy though. Like some of the imagination that people have, like to come up with, like I'm gonna recreate this in JavaScript or whatever, and put this.
Oh, you can totally do it. You can totally do it. So
the restart page.
I don't know what this is.
No.
Okay, these are all the restart dialogues.
Wow. So
That's awesome.
Fun story.
Yeah.
We had one of these back in the day. There was a browser flaw that lets you pop up a window, and it would. I don't know if you remember this, but like the browser window would, you wouldn't be able to close it once it popped open, and it would just keep spawning more and more windows. And there were some that were like virusy, and then there were some that were meant for pranks. And this is what this reminds me of.
Yeah,
and there was one that I used to send to friends and coworkers that would it basically have a song that went, haha, you're an idiot. And it would just keep playing this song that was just obnoxious as hell, and there was no way to close it besides turning your PC completely off.
Yeah, we all did this. Anyone who ever left their machine unlocked and left the room, like say you're in a day-long meeting and someone leaves the room and they don't have a screensaver with a password protection, you start messing with them big time. You start putting blue screen of death utilities in. You start doing all kinds of weird stuff. So we've all done this. This is the equivalent of people pushing each other into bushes, you know.
It is. So we did this at work one time, and this thing would pop up, and a buddy of mine he would play he had like a piece of the facility that was pretty much segmented off, and it was just him. So he had like these giant speakers, and he'd blast music all day long. And then I sent him that link so you could hear from across the facility this thing screaming, "Ha ha, you're an idiot."
Oh, good.
And it was hilarious. So I thought it was funny. So then to one up that prank, I took a screenshot of this thing, because it would put like a big like smiley face that said "you're an idiot" on the screen while it did it. So I took a screenshot of it and printed it out, and then photocopied like 100 copies of it, and then went to his printer and shuffled them in. So I shuffled in his shot, shaking his head like, why did I ever have to work with you?
Yeah, I know.
Other people have had to deal with this too, John. Don't worry about it.
Just do your work.
Yeah, really. I shuffled them in his printer paper, like, a big ream of printer paper that he used pretty frequently. So every once in a while, one of those would print out. And the rub is that he thought, and I knew his line of thinking would be, this is a virus.
Yeah.
So he's scanning his PC for viruses. He's ready to do a full like wipe. And then he grabs his printer tray and shuffles the paper and sees that I've loaded it. So the next day I come into my office, and every copy
HR's
that
waiting.
I made, every copy I made was taped to my cubicle
Oh,
walls.
good payback.
So he
I like
got me
that.
back at the end.
Yeah,
But it was fun. It was a fun story. So I had to share. Reminded me a lot of that.
Cool.
Good stuff, John. What is this? GitHub
So,
repository?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk recently on the interwebs around public profiles for GitHub. So you may know that GitHub has this sort of personal sort of aspect to it where people can cite their organizations, they can cite their languages, they get these reports, but they don't have any way of customizing that. Well, it turns out that you can, according to these steps that are listed by Kevin Smith. So basically what you do here is you create a repo of your own name. So basically if it's, E Charbeneau, you create a repo called E Charbeneau, which is a sub repo, and that will establish for you a special repository for you to create a GitHub public profile. Now, I think this is probably just a hidden flag feature that they haven't really enabled yet on GitHub. Maybe they have to add a UI for it. But basically, if you do this, you can create a README file, which is in Markdown. And what this will allow you to do effectively is create your own public profile page. You'll see an example of it at the bottom. This is just walking you through the steps. So this is what the repo page looks like. So you can create now this sort of, hi there, I'm doing this. People are using emojis for this. So yeah, just something that you can do if you're looking to customize your own profile.
What could possibly
now
go
there's
wrong with
been some talk about doing this for a while. I know that there was a person on Twitter from GitHub who highlighted this feature in a screenshot and said, hey, here's something I'm working on. So this is a way that you can get around that without waiting for the feature, I guess, to come about. I don't know if it's a feature that's coming or whatnot. But this is something that gives you a little bit more customization, I guess, for your GitHub profile.
So I'm looking at mine.
Let's do
If I
this.
were to do this, which area
So you create
would it customize?
So you create a new repository. Yeah. No, you're basically your home this homepage, which is your overview. You're going to have a new box up there that's for your own profile. So let's create let's do this. Let's create a repo called Ed Charbeneau.
I don't know. Can this be undone? Because I don't know if I want to do.
You're just creating a repo. What's the big deal? Just create a repo called Ed Charbeneau. This will just trash your whole profile. Come on.
Like, so it's replacing everything here.
It just adds a box to the top. Yeah, it's like as if you added a box to the top, and then you create one called Ed Charbeneau, and then you just customize it, and then it shows up at the top. At least that's my take of it. Oh, here we go. He's getting all worried now.
Repository.
There you go. So give it the same name. At least this is my understanding of how it works. Okay, there you go. You found a secret. There you go.
It's like the Konami code.
That's right. So make sure it's public. Initialize it with a README, yes, and then say create. So it's going to create this, and then you can just change it, and then there you go. And then this will show up on your. So go to your home. Sorry, go to your home page now, your profile page, and then there you go.
So it's a in addition to all of
correct,
this,
correct. It's a new section
at the top.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very well. Wait. Oh, is that commented out or something? I didn't see that.
Yes. Yeah. So that's just an HTML comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Markdown can mix with markup, and so what they've done here is just commented that out.
Gotcha. All righty. Interesting.
Yeah. So you can blow it away if you don't want it. So
I'll leave it there for now.
All right. Cool.
Let people see that I'm lazy and I'm not going to go back and change that.
That's right.
That's
I don't know if you can fork it though. There's a little question from Angry Little Hamster saying, "Can you fork a public profile?" Then I don't know why you'd want to, because I guess that's not going to really do anything. It's not going to create a special, because it has to match your repository name. It's like a name matching thing.
Here, see if you can fork it, Angry Hamster.
Oh, okay.
Have fun. Go fork that.
There you go. It's not going to do anything, I don't think. So.
No, I mean, if it does fork it, it won't be under the same namespacing.
No.
So it won't. You'll just have this repo under your profile, which
won't
do anything special. So don't expect that to do anything. Let's see. I think this is the last one we got here. It's AWS link of yours.
Yeah, so CodeGuru was a tool that was introduced at reInvent last year. Basically, it provides three basic capabilities. There's a profiler, and then that can run in both test and deployment. And then there's the reviewer app, which is basically the review aspect of it's like a static code analysis tool. So these are generally available now through AWS, and basically gives you this capability of running both the profiler and the reviewer within AWS, which is great. This is good for things like Lambda expressions. This is good for utilizing and integrating with certain repositories you have. I think it supports a variety of providers like GitHub and Bitbucket. But essentially, this is yet another tool that you can add to your arsenal. I'm a big fan in code analysis tools. Profilers are kind of tough because you have to know what you're looking for, and you have to know how to look for things. And they all do. The profilers generally do the same thing. They give you sort of like this flame chart, or they give you this heat map of where code has been executing. But if it's not readily transparent, it's hard to know where the problem may lie. And you may be looking at things that are really not problematic. And so profilers, I'm a fan of, but I find them not to be as useful as, say, a static or dynamic code analyzer, such as a reviewer tool. And so a tool like this gives you a capability of looking at code and giving you a list of suggestions as to what you should do to improve it. There are a lot of tools out there. FXCop comes to mind as one very popular tool in the .NET community. But more recently, there are a variety of tools that are coming on board that give you more capabilities for analyzing code. I took a look at this recently. One of the ones that came to mind, and this isn't in the link, but it is worth mentioning, there is a tool called DeepCode. And this is at deepcode.ai. And basically what this is basically utilizing the collective power of code in public repositories and trying to discern some of the ways in which code can be used effectively, and then apply those lessons through learning to your own code. So it will do semantic analysis of your code and determine what is reasonable and what is not in the code that you have published up on repositories.
Yeah,
so these are yet another set of tools.
Yeah, I like this one frame I zoomed in on here. They've got a like
CPU
kind of
cost.
CPU cost involved with the code that you published.
That's good.
To the cloud. And it's basically saying that there's a method that you're using that costs about $6 a year to run, which may not seem like a lot, but this is kind of an example. So you could have something that maybe this is something that's executed, many times a day or something like that.
Right.
And that CPU cost per year might go way up. So it's a pretty handy utility if you're trying to look for cost savings and analyzing your code from that perspective.
Sure.
I'll speak from my own, type of scenario and say that code that I write usually is not analyzed at this level. So, the stuff that I write and ship isn't going to, I'm not thinking of it as a cost, unit. It's, can I get, the bits to do this thing? Can I get bits from bucket A to B? Can I get the outputs that I want from the inputs that I have? But
sure.
It's not something I'm analyzing cost on. So, maybe this is a place where you've used a sort where you should have used an aggregate, and you're gonna see a lot more performance out of something simpler to get the same job done.
Yeah, the cost analysis one is great because you hear these horror reports of people like, oh, I just got a $2,700 AWS bill. And if you had a tool like this that would tell you ahead of time, hey, you may not want to run this. I think more often than not, those are just cases where people stand something up and then they forget about them and they just run. But if you have a tool that will allow you to do that, I mean, there are billing capabilities into both AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, etc. They do have billing alerts and things like that, but something like this can show you basically where you're possibly writing code that might cost you.
Yeah, this will help you find all those thread.sleeps that you accidentally left
That's right.
in your code.
Yeah. So tools like this are fine. Like I said, profilers are fine. I've used many profilers, and I think the problem with profilers isn't what it's profiling. I think it's just when you JIT compile and then it spills out into the compiler, you're looking at a lot more data now. You're also sometimes you're calling things multiple times, and it's hard to really kind of figure out where the problem may lie. This is more of a performance topic than anything, but these things can be very hard to kind of trace back because what you're looking at is a crime scene, right? It's sort of the same thing. You're going back in time. You've traced the footprints. You're like, all right, Johnson, he came in through here and then he did this, and then how did he get here? And why is there water on the floor? Like, you're doing the same thing. You're retracing the steps. There was a very popular tool in Visual Studio, or that still exists actually, that does similar capabilities to this. Many tools exist in many different languages for this capability, but knowing what to look for and how to look for it, you're kind of like becoming like Sherlock Holmes. It's not so much the magnifying glass you're using, but kind of figuring out what it is you're looking at, and then kind of thinking about, all right, what does this mean for my code, and how can I fix this?
Yeah. I've never heard my code referred to as a crime scene before.
Oh, every piece of code I write is a
insulted.
disaster, dude. Are you kidding?
I'm
Every time I write
beautiful. It's
code,
like-
there should be a tribunal of people who are just accusing me of doing wrong things, So
I don't write ugly code. It just doesn't happen. I have a pencil with 2 erasers on it.
every time I ship code, I'm like, all right,
I said that
here we go.
backwards.
Every
I'm
time
getting
I ship
tired.
code, it's just chucking it over the wall. I'm kind of like, I'm looking over the wall, like what's that show that was back in the 90s with Tim the Tool Time Taylor, and he had his neighbor.
Yeah.
He was just looking over at Wilson. He was looking over his yard fence there, and that's kind of like me watching my code run in production. I'm like, oh, let's see what happens now.
Wilson got social distancing before anybody else.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's the thing we have to really
that's right.
There.
Just do what Wilson does. So
maybe he had a mask behind that wall. We'll never know.
Maybe. Never saw his face. So.
All right, man. It has been great chatting with you. We will do this again next week. And for all of you that are still enjoying your holiday, have a good one. Hope you came out with all of your digits intact and had a good one. John, take care down there in the winter in Australia. Is there less things to eat you and
for sure.
sting you in the winter?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They all go into hibernation.
That's good to hear. I was worried about you. Take care, everybody.
All right.
And we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.